I don't want to. I don't want to do this. I don't want to explain this damn movie. I gotta. I don't wanna. I don't want to talk Punk. I don't want to talk about this movie. Rocky, Mick. I don't want to talk Batman. I don't want to talk about this movie. It's just. James Cameron, you're a good director. You wouldn't make a movie like this. Stallone, you're a good director. You wouldn't make a movie. Tommy Wiseau, you wouldn't even make a movie like this. Hello there, I'm Scotty. And you're not, and continuing to be Horror Weekend, we have Night Killer, an Italian film from 1990, directed by Claudio Vergasso and Bruno Mattei. I'm starting to realize why I don't talk about Bruno. But, this movie, if I could try and put out a synopsis for y'all. This woman is attacked by a masked killer and suffers amnesia. Now, she is abducted by a strange man who may or may not be the killer. Meanwhile, a bunch of murders are also occurring. And it's a mystery to figure out what exactly is going on. Yeah. And this movie it's a handful. This movie went through some problems in pre-production. Claudio Vergasso shot this movie. He had the movie he wanted to make. Studio saw it and said, no, we need more gore. So they added some reshoots. Bruno Mattei came in and did some reshoots. And I think that's where all the kill scenes come from. And I think when Bruno Mattei did this, I think he thought it was a supernatural killer. Because these kills are all punch through the gut type things. So for the one where it's like in the wax or whatever. Which I think might have been one of the original kills, I guess. I don't know, because it's one of the only ones that don't have the punch to the gut thing. But this movie, it caused me on more than one occasion to pause and go into the other room and just yell, what the fuck is going on? Because this movie is just, at the end of the day, I think I've fallen in love with this movie because it's so batshit insane that I actually went to eBay and I put the Blu-ray in my cart. I don't know if I'll get it because it's in my save for later, but I don't know. Something with this movie. It's one of those things where it's like when I first watched The Room, or when I heard about The Room, I have to get this movie. And that's just hearing about it. This one I watched, and I'm like, I want to own this. It's just so bad. The movie starts with reshoots. This very bad actress playing a dance instructor yells at this one lady, and you could tell, I could tell this is a different director doing this, because there is a tit shot which is shot at first blurry, but there's a tit shot later that's very clear, and it made me think something else is going on here, and I started looking into it, and it's like, okay, there are two directors, and this was a reshoot, because you don't, when you have tit shots in a film, they are the money shots. You want to get them. You don't do a soft fuzz, soft focus, out of focus shot of them when they're first exposed. Like she's in there changing her clothes into her dance suit, and you see the bra, and then it comes out of focus, and she takes it off. I'm going, what are you doing? I'm not to be misogynistic or anything, but like if you're putting nudity in your film, show it right. Mate did not show it right. Because it's just like out of focus and then comes into focus. And then we get the killer who shows up and just punches through her and kills her. Then the dance instructor goes to see what's taking her so long, and she gets attacked, and there are some continuity errors. She gets split. She gets her throat slit, and in the next shot, it's gone. And she gets punched through the gut, and then thrown over the balcony. But when she's going over the balcony, the hole that was punched through her is now gone. And that's how you start the film. Two unrelated murders to the rest of the plot. We then meet our main protagonist, Melanie Beck, who has a daughter and is being harassed by her ex-husband. Now, they don't say this ever in the film until the end, but it is her ex-husband, and I figured it out because of the way he was harassing her. It is her ex-husband. It's the only way it could be. She then yells at him very badly to never call there again. I mean, this actress acting is just terrible. And she's just, no. She's like, never call him again! And she hangs up the phone. And then, okay, so I'm going to point something out first, because before this happens, a family friend named Sherman shows up to take the daughter somewhere out to the country for the weekend or something, puts her on a plane or whatever. He drops off a Christmas present, which, believe it or not, does come into play at the end of the movie, and tells her not to open it until Christmas, okay? And they put it under the tree, and then they leave. So this scene, after she hung up, she goes in the mirror, and she takes her top down, exposing her tits. And she starts to caress them, and kind of pump herself up, like, oh, you are a good mother, you have a daughter, you have a failing marriage, you could do better. And it's just like, what is this? But it's not over, because the phone rings again, and she answers the phone with her tits still out, and she yells at the phone in a very bad acting yell, like before, but it's the killer now. And like magic, the very next cut, her top's back up. When the hell did she do this? She's on the phone the entire time. What? Continuity? No. The killer shows up. Well, she hangs up. And then the killer calls back. She calls the cops. The killer calls back, pretending to be the cop. How he knew the cop's name or anything, it's beyond me. Then he shows up in her house. Maybe that's why. I don't know, but I don't think she ever says the cop's name. And he removes his mask, but we don't see it. But she fights back, I guess. But this scene, she sees the killer, right? She runs to the door, and like every slasher film ever, she can't get the door open. And like every slasher film ever I've ever watched, I'm yelling, unlock the fucking door. Her door has two locks, both locking from the inside. One deadbolt, one regular lock. Both that lock from the inside and are like just turn lock things, right? She can't get to the door because it's locked. The killer then taunts her with a set of keys. And I went, this is the first time I paused it, went, what? What the? I'm like, she has deadbolts on her door that lock from the inside. And you're taunting her with keys. The keys won't do anything. The deadbolts from the inside. What? So she has her traumatizing assault. Apparently she's raped, but he takes his mask off, and apparently this is the only time he does it. We don't see who he is. Only she does. But she's traumatized so much that she loses her memory. She has amnesia. She's in the hospital. Her daughter is there, but she's unresponsive because she's lost her memory. There's this doctor guy who's supposed to be a Dr. Loomis type, even down to being balding with a beard and a strange accent, But, you know, he's her doctor, not Michael's doctor, so it doesn't make any sense. She also teams with this cop, who's probably the worst actor in the film. And then we see her driving in a very nice sports car, where this other guy in a Jeep, who we're supposedly just some random guy harassing her, but we've already seen the husband from behind. So I'm like, oh, that's the guy calling her from the bar. That's her husband, presumably. But she doesn't recognize him because she has amnesia. But not once has he tried to jog him by saying, honey, it's me, your husband. Nope. Nope. Instead, he chases her into the bathroom where she holds him at gunpoint because she has a gun for some reason and tells him to take his clothes off and throw it in the toilet and then flush them and then leaves. And then he runs out and the guy at the hotel counter or wherever they are says, hey, what happened to your clothes? And he goes, I was molested in the little boy's room, and then runs off. And I, again, paused the movie and went, what the fuck? Huh? I don't understand. But this guy somehow knew he was going to have to take his clothes off because he gets back in his Jeep and puts the shirt on. He somehow knew he was going to have to take his clothes off. How? I don't know. But then he abducts her. He follows her to a place where she's going to commit suicide. Why? I don't know, because she doesn't remember anything that's happened in this film other than some guy in the bathroom, and that's not enough to try to commit suicide, I don't think. But yes, by drinking a bunch of Quaaludes and barbiturates, and she has a gun. And so he decides that the only way to save her is to make her drink the salt water from the ocean that she's by, which causes her to throw them up. He then abducts her. I think he takes her to the hospital first, but he abducts her and takes her to his little apartment, hotel room thing, sleazy little apartment building, where he proceeds to do very terrible things, assumedly, and we're supposed to believe he's the killer. And I did kind of peg him as the killer at first because he calls her. But then I did think, I'm like, wait a minute, he was just at a bar and the killer was calling from outside the house. She looks out and she sees someone calling from the house. So it's gotta be that guy. Who is it? I don't know. And who it's revealed to be, it just doesn't really make any sense whatsoever. But at least to me, it made me scratch my head a little bit, but we'll get there. So we've shown that this guy, the husband, Axel, we know it's her husband. At least I figured out it was her husband. I don't know if anyone else does. He keeps leaving, and then we're shown a killer. These are probably reshoots. Killing people, you know, in places like an art studio or aquarium. I don't know. Because the studio wanted more killer scenes to make it a slasher, giallo type film. And the music and everything makes it seem like a giallo type film. So we're led to believe that it's Axel because at one point he says, I need to go blow off some steam. And the next scene is someone is the killer killing someone. Now the killer, to go on a little tangent here, the killer looks like Freddy Krueger. He's wearing a terrible mask, and at first I thought he was like a supernatural killer thing. But I was like, it's so obvious, it's just a mask. But no, he takes off the mask. I'm like, oh, so it is a guy in a mask. Okay, but he has a messed up face and one claw hand. And even the producers have said, the director has said that they ripped off Freddy Krueger. But in Italy, this was Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Because it carried the same Italian name as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was something else I don't remember. But it's known as Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, even though Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 came out earlier that year. So it makes no sense at all. But, yeah. Anyway, so he shows up with fried chicken, Kentucky Fried Chicken, because they show you the box. He's like, a fried chicken. And he's like, she's like, why don't you let me kill yourself? You gonna kill yourself? Huh? With this? Quaaludes? Drugs? Barbiturates? And a gun? And it's like, but what does this dude think he's doing? Shakespeare? What? I'm just like, this guy is just, and this movie is an hour and a half. 10 minutes more than Pool Party Massacre. That movie had better pacing than this. I know, I said it was bad pacing. That had better pacing than this. It's about the same. Kill scene, go back to that, kill scene. But the scenes with the two of them in the room are so drawn out and so uncomfortable. It just makes you go, can we get past this, please? Meanwhile, the cop and the doctor are trying to find her, and they put her picture in the paper. Now, from what we find out later, this doesn't seem to work well. Then again, maybe they didn't put it in the picture. There's this news reporter lady who's only there to throw out exposition. Like every time she's on the TV or something, she's throwing out exposition. Maybe she's the one that put it in there. But the guy who manages the apartment building, caretaker, whatever, sees the picture and recognizes her and calls the cops. However, the cops never go in there to find her. Eventually, he takes her out and he calls the cops and tells them, I'm gonna kill her or whatever. So we're led to believe this guy's a killer. Meanwhile, the friend, Sherman, is taking care of the daughter with his wife, and the wife somehow believes that the daughter is her daughter. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. I get taking care of someone's kid. You start to feel like you're like a second parent to them, especially if you take care of them long enough. But this is just like, she's saying, that's our daughter. And he's like, no, that's Melanie Beck's daughter. Why did he say her full name? I don't know. But, so, at this point, I was fully under the impression that Axel was the killer. So, Melanie decides now is the perfect time to run away. Even though she could have just broken down the freaking door in a rundown apartment and run away. But she runs away. And somehow bumps into Sherman. She doesn't really recognize him, but he takes her back to her own house. And I was like, what are you doing? Why didn't you take her to your house? Why take her to her house? The killer will find her. Well, it becomes very apparent why he did this, but he goes in there, and I kind of caught this. Maybe they did this on purpose after they revealed who the killer was. But again, I'm like, these people aren't that smart. So Sherman tells her to stay in and lock herself in and hands her a thing of keys. Again, she has deadlocks that lock from the inside without any keyholes. She doesn't need keys. And after they reveal who the killer was, spoiler alert, it's Sherman, because the killer, she leaves, and we see Sherman go to the phone booth and call her. And then Sherman shows up in the mask, takes it off. It's him. He's the killer. And it's like, wait, what was Axel? Her ex-husband? What was he doing? Oh, that's explained later. But it turns out he was the killer. And he wanted to finish what he started. She got one off on him, the little scar on his face, that he says the killer did to him. But no, the killer's never left anyone alive, but anyway. And she starts to get her memory back. She stabs him in the dick, which doesn't seem to faze him, because he's just like, ugh. And it's like, dude, you got stabbed in the dick. That's like the worst place to ever get stabbed, except for like on the hand or the bottom of your foot, because there's a very, very sensitive place. I should know. I have a hammer for my foot. I told you the story in the other one, Pool Party Massacre one. It's just, yeah. But he just kind of plays it off, and I called this like they're kind of at each other. And I'm like, what, is Axel gonna show up inexplicably and save the day? Sure enough, he comes barely through the window. Oh, I'm sorry. Stunt double comes through the window because whoever that is coming through the window is just bursts through the window is not the actor who plays Axel. It's a stunt double. The hair's not even the same. I digress. Axel comes in, they have a gunshot, even though Sherman gets the shot off first. But it doesn't do anything because Axel's there to save the day. He shoots him dead, and then they embrace because it's her husband, which is where you're supposed to figure it out. And then we get the explanation from the doctor and the cop. Apparently, this was a part of an elaborate trick to traumatize Melanie enough for her memory to come back, and so she could remember who the killer was. Have her own husband, who's also a cop, by the way, do this, and then they get back together at the end. But wait, there's more, because remember, Killer Man left a present for the daughter. And what is it? Well, it's the mask. Only there's actually a mouth hole in this one. And are we supposed to believe that she's possessed by the killer? Which doesn't make any sense because he wasn't supernatural, although he was punching through them. I don't know. The movie ends there. By the way, I need to question Melanie Beck's sanity. She needs to be thrown in a mental institution and the key locked away, melted down. Her husband sexually assaulted her to traumatize the woman. He had her strapped up, did horrible things to her, and even though he apologizes, that should never be enough. He did it on the orders of another cop and a doctor who wanted to traumatize her to get the memories back. But that's too much, man. And they just get back together at the end. Oh, don't ever leave me again. And I'm like, did you kick him out? He did all that. In the end, there's only one rating I can give this movie. Between the acting, the writing, everything going on in this movie, I can only say the Night Killer is so bad, it's good. I genuinely want to own the Blu-ray to this because it is just so bad that I just want to say this movie. I want to show friends. I want to say, hey, watch this movie. It is nuts, so fucking nuts. You cannot believe it. So there you go. I don't know what I need. But what are your thoughts on Night Killer? Leave in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.